All right, let's jump right into today's explainer. We are descending straight into a dark, ethereal realm to decode the incredibly cryptic lore of five bizarre entities. If you are a fan of dark fantasy, deeply complex power systems, and intense psychological world building, you are absolutely going to love this. Today, we're treating the source material as if it were the first major arc of an incredibly dense, atmospheric anime. We're going to break down the monologues of these entities to figure out the actual rules of their existence, and honestly, to fully grasp the sheer dread they project.
And just look at this opening line. This perfectly sets our highly theatrical, high-stakes tone. Think of it as that chilling, cold open right before the opening credits roll and we step into the abyss. Destruction is sunny, for reality does hiss. It's this jarring contradiction that instantly tells us that the logic of this world, this limbo, is fundamentally broken. Or, at the very least, it's operating on a frequency that is completely alien to our own.
So, here is our roadmap for this limbo arc. We're going to face the oceanic time slip, decode the rhymes of a ruined world, survive the joyful undead, witness the three-headed traitor, and finally endure the blue mage's curse. Let's get into it.
Starting with Section 1, the oceanic time slip, where we look at the amphibious monster's power system.
So our first adversary is this amphibious monster who basically claims that terrestrial life, the world we know, is just an oppressive sun that restricts the mind. By living entirely outside our reality, this entity unlocks a brilliantly specific sci-fi power system. The condensed matter and the extreme pressure of the deep ocean, they don't crush this beast. They actually act as a massive battery, generating enough localized energy for faster-than-light travel. But here is the fascinating part. It's not purely physical. It actually requires a psychological trigger.
The core mechanic here is that memories are supposedly made of that exact same oceanic material, making this time travel a miniature preview of all possibilities. This Chronos bookmark is literally like a save state in a video game. The monster explains that if you comprehend the concept of the arrow of time early on in your life, you establish a bookmark. And even if the universe fundamentally tries to stop you from breaking its rules, immersing yourself in this specific oceanic matter lets you snap right back to that precise save point.
But taking a quick mental reset here, the monster notes it isn't currently in its deep ocean domain. It is trapped in an ethereal realm, in limbo, a space that is neither land nor sea. It even hints that this realm might be purely digital, or maybe just psychological symbolism. It is a classic isekai trope, totally messing with our perception of what is actually real right as we transition to our next highly chaotic encounter.
Which brings us to Section 2, Rhymes of a Ruined World, featuring the overgrown statue.
Now we confront the overgrown statue, an entity that communicates through this rapid-fire, completely chaotic barrage of rhyming graphemes. Visually, the sheer insanity of this monologue is wild. It's actively trying to overwhelm you with abstract narratives and shattered meaning. In the source material, the statue speaks in a relentless, dizzying rhyme scheme, bringing up flamingos, blood streams, and delirium's dreams. It's explicitly designed to disorient you. It's like a psychological attack from a cryptic villain attempting to break your sanity before throwing a single physical punch.
But if we logically peel back those rhymes and translate the madness, the statue is actually making a deeply dark, factual claim about the inescapable dread of existence. Behind all the crazy rhymes, the lore is incredibly bleak. The statue claims the universe is not just neutral, it is fundamentally horrible by default. Meaning is shattered. Optimism? It sees optimism as this cute, pathetic delusion that ultimately just ends violently on the asphalt. It is a philosophy of pure, distilled despair.
Let's keep descending into Section 3, the joyful undead, and a morbid reminiscence.
We meet the zombie next, a creature looking back on a past life filled with a deeply ironic, incredibly morbid sociology. When you impartially analyze this, you see a fascinating contradiction. In life, this entity and its cohort publicly pretended to have strong moral convictions, protesting bloodshed. But privately, they savored the destruction of strangers and delegated cold-blooded murder. Yet somehow, they died completely naturally and now feel entirely entitled to a peaceful afterlife. This paradox perfectly nails the zombie's twisted worldview, treating morality like some fickle quantum mechanic. It genuinely cannot comprehend why mythological lore says evil people go to hell. From its perspective, once the nervous system shuts down, consciousness is gone. The whole idea of an afterlife of torment for worldly sins is just completely baffling to it. It really highlights a terrifying villain archetype, the monster who believes they are entirely justified and completely exempt from consequence.
Moving deeper, we hit Section 4, the three-headed traitor, Cerberus in conflict. So here we encounter Cerberus, and this is just classic anime character design, a terrifying beast where the most intense conflict is actually internal. This brilliantly splits their dysfunctional dynamic. You have one head reveling in its bloody, victorious survival, proud of its lies and the mass death it caused, boasting about living a long life off the backs of others. Meanwhile, another head resents being the solitary scapegoat for their shared atrocities. It regrets its role and absolutely hates being conjoined. It is quite literally an eternity with a toxic roommate you share a body with, bound together by shared sins.
What's wild is that the heads casually start dropping these cryptic titles of other beings they interacted with, treating them like defeated foes in this sprawling, dark fantasy history. They mention Dianthus, Laurel, and Brave Valley just in passing. It gives you the sense that Limbo has a massive, undocumented history. Brave Valley, for example, apparently descended into hell voluntarily just to retrieve someone. It makes the world feel incredibly lived in and strongly hints at these epic, cataclysmic battles that happened completely off-screen. Now, before we face our final adversary, let's establish a quick distinction regarding the magical systems in this realm. Not all curses are created equal in Limbo. The entities recognize that natural decay, entropy, is just a default setting of the universe. It happens on its own. To truly punish someone, you need a much more active, deliberate power system.
Which brings us to Section 5, the Blue Mage's Curse, the ultimate entrapment.
We have finally arrived at the ultimate antagonist of this arc, the Blue Mage. And unlike the others, the mage breaks the fourth wall, focusing its malice directly on you, the viewer, with this haunting question. This question is the entire foundation for its philosophy of predetermined doom. The mage wants you to look back at your life, at every failed endeavor, every dashed hope, and realize it wasn't bad luck, it was by design.
The mage totally delights in this monologue, revealing that he cursed his target, you, half a lifetime ago, just to paralyze any floating possibilities you might have had. It's a terrifying concept. The mage claims to have placed you on the railways of existence, where your only purpose is uselessness. Any moments of hope you felt? Just delusions of grandeur. Because the reality is, you were deliberately isolated in a distilled form, a solitary atom in a sea of deterministic molecules.
And comparing the two mages, you see how brutal this is. The entropy mage is passive, he just lets time do the work. But the blue mage actively uses an inescapable electromagnetic trap to decapitate existence, openly mocking the concept of destiny itself. This is the culmination of the Limbo power system. He uses specific physics to ensure that destiny is nothing more than eternal failure, completely paralyzing you both physically and metaphysically.
And this serves as the inescapable final truth of the Blue Mage's power system. It's a claustrophobic cave of existence with absolutely no exit. The mage mocks you, forever hoping, forever trying to escape this destiny, revealing that you have been anathemized from the very beginning. It's the ultimate villain victory speech, officially sealing the protagonist, you, in an existential prison. Which leaves us with this final, genuinely chilling thought to ponder until our next descent into the dark lore of this world. Are the restrictions of our daily lives, our endless struggles against gravity, our memories and our failures, actually just the mechanics of a beautifully constructed trap? Are we already echoing in limbo? Thank you guys so much for exploring this fascinating, twisted world with me today. Keep analyzing the lore, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.